Mtgnerdgirl is proudly sponsored by CoolStuffInc.com. When you use promo code MNG5 at checkout, you'll receive a free exclusive Mtgnerdgirl vampire token, as well as 5% off your entire order. Show your support for her content and get this free bonus by using the code MNG5. Only at CoolStuffInc.com. Cool stuff in stock.
Welcome back, guys. We are here for the Brothers War Limited set review. In this video, we're going to be going over every single red card from 1 to 5 based on their playability in the average limited deck. Yanks is on the call. Welcome back, Yanks.
Hello, everybody. Time for the worst color in Magic.
Woo! All right, we're going to start off with Arms Race, a 4-mana enchantment that says pay 4. You may put an artifact card from your hand onto the battlefield. That artifact gains haste. Sacrifice it at the beginning of the next end step. Not a fan.
Yeah, this is an attempt to call back to Sneak Attack. Same casting cost. That was for creatures, and it only cost 1 to activate, not 4.
Also,
so it's not nearly as good.
What a crappy mechanic that you get to put your car on the road one day and then it breaks and dies. What the heck is this? She should be fired.
Well, it's the flavor text.
You want it good, fast, or cheap. You can't have all 3. I see. That's great flavor text for this card, actually.
That's great because that's a standard business phrase.
Yep.
So it's perfect for this card. Yeah, this card's not great. I mean, if somebody's gonna try to build around this and draft all the prototypes that all cost 9, but still not worth it.
Agreed. I'm not interested in playing this. I think it's a 1.
Yeah, I think it's a 1 as well.
Bitter Reunion, a 2-mana enchantment. When Bitter Reunion enters the battlefield, you may discard a card. If you do, draw 2 cards, and you can pay 1, sacrifice this. Creatures you control gain haste until end of turn. This is interesting. It's actually, it's like Thrill of Possibility. So it's a 2-mana spell. You discard a card and draw 2, but then you get a nice little bonus because it gets a little Easter egg that you can use later in the game to give something haste. I think that's actually quite cool. Now it's not an instant, so you can't do it at instant speed. You can't trigger relevant things for instance, but this is still neat. What do you think?
Yeah, I don't know if this effect is better than Thrill Possibility being an instant. It's questionable. I think I like Thrill better, but it's close enough that it would probably get the same rating.
Okay. I don't know. I think that the little ability is not super small. I mean, haste isn't terribly exciting, but I do like this a lot. I think in most decks I'm really willing to run Thrill. I'm willing to run this as well. I mean, sometimes there's the spell mechanics that make you want to do this, but I'm happy to play this. So for me, Thrill is usually a 2. I'm going to put this in the same ballpark. It's going to see some play in any red deck that's got some extra space.
Yeah, I think it's in the same range, and we haven't seen any of that spell mechanic in this set, so I don't think there's a huge downside there.
All right, Blitz Automaton. It's either going to cost you 3 mana or 7 mana, and it'll come in as a 3/2 or a 6/4. It's just a big dumb idiot with haste, and it's got no booty.
Meh.
It's a
I mean, I feel
its prototype cost is like the vanilla creature that we want to see. So if you have things that will affect or want to have a ton of artifacts in play, sure, it can fill your curve as an artifact to trigger your other things. But other than that, I'm not super interested.
Yeah, it's just exactly 2 red, 3/2 haste, fine, whatever. And you don't see 7 mana creatures that often, so I don't know what the vanilla 7 mana would be, but this feels like it.
Agreed. I think it's a 2. 3/2 with a keyword, although it's not a very exciting keyword. It'll probably find some synergy, but filler.
Yeah, I mean, we'd give a 2 and a red, 3/2 haste a 2, and this is better because it has an option, but it's not much better.
Not much, exactly. Brotherhood's End, we have a colorless red for a sorcery that says choose 1. It deals 3 damage to each creature and each planeswalker. Hello. Or you can destroy all artifacts with mana value 3 or less. A little flexibility for what, an Anger of the Gods is what this is?
Yeah. Um, yeah, I mean, it's a sweeper. It's a small sweeper. These usually see play in limited, but they're not thrilling.
Yeah, you just play around your own removal spells, and you hope to get a little lucky there. Hope that they play into it a bit, and I could see play like anytime I have this in red, I'm happy to put this in the deck. It will be a card I board out quite regularly if their deck just is not susceptible to this. But there's enough soldiers and enough small things that I think it'll be super relevant. So
And it does wipe out Power Stones.
probably a 3.
Yeah, I think it's a 3. But we have story time.
Okay, bring it.
So Brotherhood's End, Urza and Mishra on this card. Urza's on the left, Mishra's on the right. This is the scene in the book where they are at the camp and they are fighting over basically the Power Stone, the Might Stone and Weak Stone. The green one, the Might Stone, the red one. Sorry, the other way around. Weak Stone, and literally they get to the point where they get into such a fight that they try to use the stones on each other. And then in the distance, you can see sort of a woman in the distance. That's Takasia, who comes and tries to break it up and is trying to get them to stop it. What happens is Urza gets distracted, kind of slips, and basically the entire camp explodes. And they survive, some people survive, and she dies. And that's kind of the last thing that breaks them apart. And they don't see each other again for years and years until they're at war with each other and leading different kingdoms.
That is a very specific story. I would have never known that. Like, I did notice that person in the back, but I didn't like give them any thought to it. And yeah, that's a very cool way to take a look at this art. Thank you, Yanks.
Yeah, she was their mentor, and her death scarred both of them.
Aw. Conscripted Infantry, 3 mana for a 3/1 human soldier, relevant creature type. Whenever it dies, create a 1/1 human artifact creature token. It is a little overcosted, but it's a relevant creature type that will kind of replace itself. I wish it had come into play when it came into play. That'd be cool. Yeah, I mean, I think a soldier deck will want this, but this isn't the colors with most of the soldier payoffs.
No, and we saw a 2-mana blue card that is so much better than this. That was a 2/1 that left a flyer behind.
Yeah.
For 2 mana, this just feels very underwhelming.
Yeah, I agree. It's not the set that's going to have the payoff for this. And also, I want my red decks to be a little bit more aggressive. I don't necessarily want them to be paying 3 mana for a 3/1. So I'm not a fan of this. I think it's going to be playable if you need the curve filler, but that's a 2 for me.
Yeah, it's a 2 for me. Maybe you end up in some red-white deck that cares about soldiers, or red-blue deck, but most likely, yeah, this is just a 2.
All right, Draconic Destiny, 3 mana for an enchantment aura that says Enchanted Creature. Enchant creature gets +1/+1 and has flying, haste, and pay 1. This creature gets +1/+0 until end of turn. It's a dragon in addition to its other types. When enchanted creature dies, return Draconic Destiny to its owner's hand. Holy smokes, this turns anything into a built-in dragon. And it comes back and turns the next thing into a dragon.
Yeah, as long as you don't get caught with the target dying with this on the stack, this just keeps coming back.
That's cool. Well, it says again, dies. If it's exiled, it still doesn't come back. So there is the way to get rid of it, right?
Yeah, or bounced.
Or bounced. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, so I guess there are a couple ways, but yeah, this is extremely powerful.
Yeah. It comes with some risk, but I am a firm believer that you can, if you don't rush your stuff out, it can be quite powerful. And you might want to just play this on 3 on your 2-drop just because they also played their 2-drop or 3-drop, just to make sure that you can get it onto the battlefield without it being like killed in response. So you might honestly want to rush this out, which is not typical for these auras. You want to wait until it's like a little safer. I think this is cool. What are you thinking rating wise?
Yeah. There is some risk in this card, so I'm knocking it down a little bit to all the way down to a 3/5. I think the card is very good. You do need to be careful, especially when the black common removal spell exiles.
So what was the rating?
3/5.
Okay, I'm a little higher. I'm gonna give it a 4. I think if it does its thing, it's gonna win some games.
Yeah, I think if that black, if the base black common removal spell didn't say exile, I think I would probably have it for.
All
Or
right.
end all the white exile effects.
Still pretty close, only half a point
Yeah.
off. Uh, Dwarven Forge Chanter, 2 mana for a 1/2. With Ward, pay 2 life. It has Prowess, +1/+0. This is a great rate. And it's a Dwarven Wizard. That seems cool.
Yeah. Solid filler. Solid filling. Sorry, solid creature to fill your curve. It is not filler. It's better than that. I think. But yeah, this is going to fit into the red blue. It's not quite a spells deck in this format. It's because it includes like artifacts and enchantments. It's just a non-creature spell theme.
Yeah, absolutely. I think this is a fine card. I'm happy to play it. I think it's like a 2/5.
Yeah, this is gonna be really easy to attack with this as a 2/4 most of the time, and for only 2 mana, you're pretty happy with that.
It also blocks well. It messes
Yeah,
with soldier decks.
sure.
It does everything you kind of want a 2-drop to do, so I'm happy with it. Excavation Explosion, 3 mana for a sorcery that says deal 3 damage to any target, create a tapped Power Stone. Hey, it's a little on the pricey side at sorcery, but I'm okay with that. Any target, it can go face, it can make you more mana.
Yeah, 3 damage for 3, and getting something else out of it. Sure, you're in red. We haven't seen it yet, but there's probably some red stuff that sacrifices artifacts. So even if you're not ramping with the Power Stones, you can get some use out of them.
Yeah, I think this is a 4. It's got some downsides that compared to the removal we usually see at 4 at this like in this range. It's usually like 1 mana less, or it's instant speed or something like that. But it also makes a Power Stone, and it can go face where a lot of these typically can't. So I'm happy to give this, red's premium small removal. Like they'll still have a bigger spell, I'm sure, but I think this is good.
Yeah, I think I have it at like a 3/5.
Yeah, I was leaning between the two. I guess it'll depend a little bit more about what's going on in the rest of the set, but I like it. The Fall of Krug. We have a 6 mana sorcery that says whenever target opponent, or choose an opponent, destroy target land that player controls. Then the Fall of Krug deals 3 damage to that player and 1 damage to each creature they control. Yeah, this is going to be very, very good against soldier decks. I mean, it's 6 mana, so I'm hoping we can still play like the black Choking Miasma instead. But, this is a sideboard card for me, and I have a sneaking suspicion we're about to get story time, as Fatal had just suggested.
Yeah, so they're also like Gengar's comment that for WoW players, that does kind of look like Deathwing. Yeah, so Krug is the capital of Yosha, which is one of the 3 allied cities that eventually fall under Urza's side. Argive, Yosha, and Corliss. Krug, we saw a card in blue, Machine Over Matter, that told the story of the wedding that Urza ended up marrying the princess, and it was the princess of Krug, princess of Yosha, Kayla bin Krug. So this card is telling the story of they had a peace summit between those 3 cities and the Falaji, which was the sort of desert tribes that they were at war with, which fell under Mishra's sway eventually. And at that peace summit, the warlord of Krug, Kayla's father, ambushed the Falaji and killed their Kadir, which was their king or sultan, and basically ended all hope of peace, all hope of reconciliation between Urza and Mishra. And then the Fall of Krug is the retaliation, which is, as things progressed, Mishra, who then took command of the Falaji after the Kadir's death, led his armies and conquered Krug with these dragon engines, and drove the oceans into being a refugee people into Argive, which is where Urza eventually made his stand.
I like the dragon engines. Like, they're a cool thing that we're seeing a lot in the art, and whenever you talk about them in the story, I think they're very cool. What do you think rating-wise, Yanks?
It's a sideboard card. The Land Destruction is always a sideboard card.
Well, I actually don't even like it for the land destruction. I like it for the deal 1 damage to every creature they control for my sideboard.
Sure. Yeah. But, agreed. But in either case, it's just a sideboard card, especially at 6 mana.
Agreed. Philology Chain Dancer? I have no idea.
Philology, yeah.
4 mana for a 2/4 human soldier. You can pay 2. It gains double strike until end of turn. It's a relevant creature type. It's a relevant ability. It's fine. I'm not thrilled about a 3 mana, 4 mana 2/4, but it's fine filler. I think if you need 4 drops, I don't find most decks do.
Yeah, it's just at the wrong part of the curve for filler creatures generally. Now, that being said, if you're playing some equipment like we've seen or some auras, those are always good on things that can get double strike. So there are decks that will be okay with this card, but yeah, it's pretty mediocre.
Probably a 2 for me.
Yep.
All right, the Philology Dragon Engine. Oh, we're starting to see the Dragon Engine. So cool. It's either 8 mana or 3 mana, and it'll be a 5/5 or a 1/3 with flying. And then it gets +1/+0 until end of turn for a sort of expensive fire-breathing mechanic. 3 mana for a 1/3 flying with like cheap fire breath. It's fine. I'm not in love with it. What do you think, Yanks?
Yeah, this is another one of these prototype cards that feels kind of medium on both sides, which is probably the point, I would guess. You don't want it to be busted, especially in uncommon on both ends. Yeah, I like the card. Cheap flyers are always good, and then this one, late in the game, you could just pump Power Stone mana into it.
So rating-wise, I'm a little lower, it sounds like, than you, but I think it's probably like a 2/5.
Yeah, I think it's a 2/5.
Someone's asking, if you play the prototype ability, do you still get the ability below? Yes. And Crash, make sure you go back, check out that introduction video on the YouTube channel where we go over all that stuff, the new and returning mechanics, archetypes in the format, and card cycles, all the good things that you'll need to know going into Brothers War. Okay, we have Feldon Ron-Nom Excavator, for fudge sakes. 2 mana for a 2/2 human artificer with haste. And Feldom Ron-Nom Excavator can't block. I'm just saying random syllables at this point.
Yes.
Whenever it is dealt damage, exile that many cards from the top of your library. Choose one of them until end of turn. Until the end of your next turn, you may cast that card. Okay.
Yeah. You're probably only going to get that ability once. Just because it's 2/2.
Yeah, unless you can like there's a fair number of 1/3s. I'm wondering there's also that last card that dealt 1 damage to everything was kind of cute.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, I like this scenario in my head where they have a 1/3 and I have a 2/2, and I'm just like, do it. Fucking do it. I dare you. And yeah, I think you could make things difficult for your opponent in that way, but and also they just can't attack you sometimes, which is nice.
He can't block.
Oh, you're right, he can't block, you're right. Okay, but still fine. He's still a bear with some pretty solid upside. Probably if it only triggers once, it's probably a 3.
Yeah, 3 is where I've got this.
Yeah, I like that.
And I have very short story time.
Okay.
Mostly about the art of this card. Feldon, so he's holding in his hand. There was a old card, again, I believe it was from Antiquities. Excuse my typing for 1 second. Double check where it was, what set it was from. Yeah, it was Antiquities, called Feldon's Cane. And basically what it did was it shuffled your graveyard into your life.
Okay.
And that is Feldon's Cane. That's basically just a modernized version of the art. But Feldon he's an excavator. Ron-Nom is this northern area covered in glaciers. And that's where the Silex that has come up a number of times, he's the one who discovers it. That uncovered from a glacier that is melted.
And he looks like he's in a glacier.
Yep.
All right. Giant Cinder Maw, 3 mana for a 4/3 dinosaur beast with trample. Players cannot gain life. Those pesky life gaining people when I'm in red. Boo. Yeah, I think this is fine. This is, it can block, surprisingly. It's a great rate. A 4/3 for 3? Sign me up. It's normally a 4/2, and it doesn't normally have built-in trample. And I don't think I'm gaining life in my red deck anyway, so yay. This seems great.
Yeah, I almost just kind of assumed this card said this can't block.
Right?
Because it feels like it shouldn't, but yeah, I mean this is supposed to have a downside at these stats for 3 mana, and that's not a downside in red.
Absolutely. I mean, it's not a human soldier. That's the downside, I suppose.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think this card is fantastic. It's going to play very well. I feel like this is normally like our 3, where it's like, yes, this is curve filler I'm happy to have, but it feels better than that to me. Like, I'm tempted to give it a 3-4. I mean, a 3-5.
Yeah, I am too, actually. I think it still probably sits at 3, but it's close.
Yeah. Agreed. Goblin Blast Runner, 1 mana for a 1/2 goblin that says it gets +2/+0 and has menace as long as you've sacrificed a permanent this turn. Okay. It's kind of small. I don't think Goblin's going to be a super relevant creature type in Limited here. But if you can incidentally trigger some things and you want to be very, very aggressive, I'm all for it, I guess. So what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, the best part about this card is the flavor text.
Read it for us.
Most goblins can light a fuse and run, but only the cleverest remember to drop the bomb.
I do like that the art implies that the goblin is the sacrifice, kind of,
Yep.
even though, you didn't sacrifice it. But like, it reminds me of the goblin grenade that I love, where the goblin's got the grenade in its mouth and it's being launched
Yep.
over the walls, basically, with the catapult. That's
Yep.
like one of my favorite cards of all time. I still have my Legacy Goblins deck, and it has Goblin Grenade in it, even though it's not good enough to be in the Goblin Legacy list. It's still there because I'm going to run it
Goblin
forever 'cause I
grenade,
love
yeah.
it. It's very cool, very, very cool and funny. Rating wise, I think only the most aggressive decks are going to want this, and you have to be interested in sacrificing things. So it's probably just like a 1/5 for me.
Yeah, I've got this at 1/5.
Heavyweight Demolisher, 7 mana for an 8/6 with Menace. And at the beginning of your upkeep, tap Heavyweight Demolisher unless you pay 3, and it has Unearth. Cool. It doesn't have prototype, so it's going to be very expensive. So we want decks with Power Stones. Doesn't have Trample, but it does have Menace. But 6 booty is like, you'll probably just get 2 for 1s here. And you tap it unless you want to pay 3. It's interesting, because when we see cards like this, it's usually they don't untap unless you do a thing. This one taps it down, so you can't even hold it back as a blocker if you don't have the mana.
Yeah, I don't love this card. It is nice that the way it works, right, you don't care about that cost on the unearthed portion, but you've paid 8 mana, so if it's going away to end of turn, you damn well better not have to care about something like that.
Mm-hmm.
I think this is just too expensive to run into 2 1/1 tokens. And then you have to pay 3 every turn.
Yeah, but I mean, if you're eating 2 1/1 tokens, that might still be worth it. I feel like this is a reasonable top end in this format with some Power Stones.
Yeah, certainly if you have the Power Stone mana to fuel it.
Even when you don't, like, I sometimes I run 1 7 mana Idiot in Limited.
Yeah. Yeah, I think we've just seen better ones.
Absolutely.
In this set.
Yeah, and the fact that this can come back, like, even if, again, it runs into 2 1/1s, you've killed 4 1/1s or whatever, it's fine. I think this is an okay card with a couple Power Stones, and then I'm playing one very hesitant 6 mana or 7 mana card without them. So for me, it's like a 2. It'll see some play, but
yeah, I think it's right around there.
I hope we can find something better for our top end, but sometimes you just can't, and you need a big mammoth idiot. All right, Horned Stone Seeker, a 2 mana 2/2 lizard. It's so cute.
I say it's adorable.
Oh, it's like the cutest thing in the set. He's got little treasures on his back. He's so cute. He has Menace, and then whenever he enters the battlefield, you create a Power Stone. How convenient for our giant 7 mana idiot. When Hornseeker leaves the battlefield, sacrifice a Power Stone. Okay. He's got Menace, so he can still get in there and not have to worry about dying for at least a little while, which is cute. And he's just so adorable. He finds you treasures. I love him. This is a... Honestly, I think this is a 3. I'm into it.
I like the card. I don't like it quite that much. I've got it as a 2/5.
So for me, a 2 mana with a bear with a keyword is usually a 2/5 already, and I think curving out with your power stones is going to be pretty stinking valuable in this. You go like 2-drop free power stone, next turn you're getting to go, big idiot or whatever, or more power stones. I think this could snowball you into some pretty good value, and I think this is the 2 drops I'm starting to be very happy to play.
Yeah, I think it can certainly facilitate some nice curves, as long as your 4-drop you're curving into is an artifact.
Well, it doesn't have to be the 4-drop. I just meant in general, like in order to get to those 8/8s and those bigger things, like you want a seamless way to make power stones without it setting you back too much in tempo. And this comes with the 2/2 body, which is exactly what I expect to see, and gives me those nice benefits that I'm looking for, without having to spend a lot of cards or time to invest in them.
As long as it hasn't been killed.
Yeah.
Because then you lose the power stone that you had.
Correct. And then it's just a bear. But like in most times it's going to play like that. And I'm worried that all the other power stone generation is going to be at a loss of card value. Like it won't be a bear. It'll be like a 1/2 that comes into play with the power stone, right? Which is what we see with a lot of things.
Yeah. I think the card's fine. I don't like relying on it for ramp, because it's only going to probably be able to ramp you for like a turn or two.
Okay. Well, then I mean, then they probably use their removal on your 2-drop, which is also great. All right.
Yeah, true.
Half a point off. Mechanized Warfare, 3 mana for an enchantment. If a red or artifact source you control would deal combat damage to an opponent, or permanent an opponent controls, it deals that much +1 instead. I don't think this is going to be relevant enough.
What's that dumb red legend that did that?
I don't know.
It was in the Embercleave decks. What was that? Torbran?
Torbran deals red cards do 2 extra damage?
2 extra damage, okay. Yeah.
Yeah. But he was also a body himself.
Oh, yeah. Oh, that was way better.
Yeah.
No question. I was trying to think of a similar effect.
Yeah, no, I don't think this is great. I mean, monocolor decks are sort of playable in this format from what it seems like what they're trying to do, but it's just not enough for do nothing. For a full card that will maybe make your creatures trade up a little, maybe. You got to be real wide and really wanting to do this.
Yeah, I'm probably not playing this outside of mono red. That being said, it's not just combat damage, it's damage, which helps. So it makes your burn spells deal 1 more.
Mm-hmm. And soldiers are colorless, like most of the tokens.
Soldiers are artifacts. I don't think that... Yeah, I said I'm not playing this outside of mono red, but in that deck, I think it could be decent. Like, you see how much of a pain the cards that reduce damage by 1 are? That just mess with combat math so much, that it's kind of the same on this end.
For me, I think it's borderline playable. I'm fine to play it in mono red, but nothing else. So I don't think this is going to be playable in the average deck. I'm going to give it a 1.
Yeah, I think I would either it's a straight 1 or it's like a 1/3 if you're specifically for mono red, but that's probably not enough of a archetype to really justify the split.
All right, we have Mishra's Command, X and a red for a sorcery. Choose 2. You can choose 2 of these options. Choose target player. They may discard up to X cards, and then they draw a card for each card discarded this way. So you can choose yourself. You can deal X damage to target creature. You can deal X damage to target planeswalker, or target creature gets +X and gains haste until end of turn. That's a lot of valuable things. So it's not giving you card advantage, but allows you to like pitch some extra lands, dig a little bit, but you have to have cards in hand, which makes the top part a little bit of a bad top deck. But most likely I'm interested in like kill your creature and pump my flyer or whatever for a little bit. It might just kill somebody.
I think like we run into the trap with these cards sometimes of thinking, oh, well, all the abilities aren't great, but Blaze is always a great card in Limited. And this is that, the second ability is Blaze.
Yep.
Plus something else that's just a bonus.
Mm-hmm.
So it doesn't... They don't have to both be great if one is great.
We've seen a fair amount of menace creatures as well. So like there's a good chance you just like blaze somebody and then put 4 damage to your face and 4 damage on my menacer, 4 extra attack on my menacer, and you get in. Or 4 to your face and kill your creature.
You can't hit players.
Oh, that's right. So 4 damage to your creature and 4 on my creature. Which is a lot, right? That adds up a lot.
So yeah, 4? I mean, this is just it's I'm treating this just as a premium removal spell, an X damage burn spell, and then you get something else, whatever is relevant.
Honestly, it might be even higher. It might be a 4 or 5. That might be a big enough swing. The problem is like there's some times where they just might not be relevant. You might not have the cards. You might not have the creature. They might not have a planeswalker. So it might just be a 4.
Yeah, and while X burn spells are good, they are by definition inefficient.
Yeah. So we're gonna, I like a 4 for that. Mishra's Domination, 2 mana for an enchant aura that says as long as you control enchanted creature, it gets +2/+2. Otherwise, it can't block. Oh, that's cool. That's a double-sided removal spell. Holy shit. So you can make your things big and scary and get them if you think that they're not going to be able to remove your stuff if you're the aggressor. Or you could just make their stuff not block and then just be the aggressor. That's fine.
Yeah, you just put this on their defender and then it does nothing.
Ooh, that's nice.
Yeah, I think this card's fine. You obviously have to be aggressive for either side to really be worth it.
I'm not very happy to get 2 for 1 with these auras, but this one does lend itself to be very aggressive, so I'm fine with it. It's going to be a 2 for me.
Yep, I think that's about right. You'll know when you don't want it, like when you're a controlling deck.
All right, moving up, we have Mishra's Juggernaut, 5 mana for a 5/3 with Trample. Attacks each combat if able and unearths for 6. It's got some trample, which I like. It's probably going to trade down pretty heavily, get into some chip damage, and then do the same again. I mean, there's lots of things that are going to want unearth, even though it's a little pricey. It's fine filler if you have the room, but I don't think it's going to see a ton of play. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, it's a nice throwback to the card Juggernaut, although I'm very disappointed it doesn't have the Juggernaut text of can't be blocked by walls.
That is a very funny text.
But yeah, 5/3 trample, it's fine. Like
2?
you're gonna end up with some bad trades because you have to attack, but usually you'll get some damage in then. Yeah, I think it's 2.
All right. Mishra's Onslaught, 4 mana for an instant. Choose 1, create 2 1/1 colorless soldier artifact creature tokens, or creatures you control get +2/+0. It's a flexible trumpet blast with a little tax to pay for the convenience. I will probably play this card. Yanks will probably not.
Yeah, I mean, I'm more likely to play this than most Trumpet Blast because it does something else, and it's not only attacking creatures.
Anybody else think that the art looks like a 40k art here? Like this looks like it's some Tyranids, some Tyranid action.
I was looking more at the flavor text as like he sounds like a cartoon like Inspector Gadget villain.
Urza has underestimated my strength yet again, said Mishra.
Like sitting in a chair, like, stroking a cat.
Fair enough. Isn't Mishra the one that loses?
Yes.
Okay.
So again, like a cartoon villain.
Fair enough. Yeah, I think this card's like a 2. I mean, I'm going to put it in. It's a little pricey.
I think it's a 2.
I like that you can make creatures at instant speed. That's cool.
Agreed.
Mishra's Research Desk, 1 mana for an artifact. You can pay 1, tap, sacrifice it, exile the top 2 cards of your library, choose one of them. Until the end of your next turn, you may play that card, and it has Unearth. So it lets you, kind of get 2 out of the top 4, which feels nice. I mean, not any 2, you know what I mean. Flexible, triggers ETB effects for all your artifact stuff. Yay. Card advantage. Yay. It's not super expensive. What do you think, Yanks?
Yeah, it's a good card. It's low impact, but card advantage in red is something you're always trying to find, so.
I'm probably not playing it if I don't have reasons to want artifact triggers, but other than that, I think it's probably a 2.
Yeah, I think it's a 2. Artifact triggers, or if somehow you want the 3 CMC or less stuff.
Okay. Or also sacrifice options, right? If you're like a red-black sacrificing things, you can bring back cheap Unearth things to sacrifice and still not have lost your value on them, that feels good too.
Agreed.
Mishra's Excavation Prodigy. 3 mana for a 2/1 with haste. You can pay 1, tap it, and discard a card, draw a card. Whenever you discard 1 or more artifact cards, add 2 red mana. This ability triggers only once each turn. So it's a sort of expensive looter? Rummager?
Yeah. I love the symmetry of this Mishra with Urza, who we saw, the uncommon one. Power Stone Prodigy, he loots. Excavation Prodigy, he rummages. Blue and red. It's kind of an interesting, maybe not that surprising, but interesting design choices.
Why is it interesting design? Blue always loots and red always rummages.
No, just that the cards themselves do the exact same thing. Do the exact complementary or similar ability because they're brothers, right? Like,
I see.
And for the same cost. Flavor-wise, yeah.
Okay, fair enough. Rating-wise, I mean, I'm not thrilled about this. This feels okay.
Yeah. Rummaging is nice. It's relatively cheap. You get to do it the turn it comes out. And sometimes you can net mana doing it.
Okay. Yeah, I like it. I mean, I think it's like a 2 for me. I think it's fine.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's like a 2. And yeah, and I'm not going to go into too much on it, but Mishra is the other brother. Urza and Mishra are the 2 main characters here.
Are you done?
I can see your excitement.
Monastery Swiftspears on Arena! Let's go! Woo! Okay, I'm done. Monastery Swiftspear is cool card. I like to cast it. Take it, Yanks. Ha ha.
I mean, it's legal in formats I don't play anyway, so fine.
I'm going to cast me some Swiftspears. All right, we got 1 mana for a 1/2 haster with prowess, and it's a human monk. And I'm going to cast this card, and it's going to be fantastic because I'm a filthy aggro player. Yeah. It's going to be playable. The threat of activation is always very, very real during the combat step, which I like. And it's a 1-drop. It's not going to be super impactful, sure. Very aggressive decks are going to love it, but it is like a 2.5 for me.
Yeah, we haven't seen any really good, cheap combat tricks, especially in red, that you kind of want with this. To help enable prowess. Like, you don't have like a Defiant Strike that replaces itself with only 1 mana like you did in original cons. Granted, that was in white. But yeah, it's like you said, playable, but not exciting except in the most aggro deck.
What is your rating?
I think overall it's a 2, but there are decks where it's going to play a lot better.
Yeah, I think I edged towards the better, but yeah, I agree. It's a lot of decks that'll be very underwhelming, but also just, woo, Swiftspears on Arena! Okay, I'm moving on. I'll let you take the next couple. Take the next 2.
Obliterating Bolt. 1 in a red for a sorcery. Obliterating Bolt deals 4 damage to target creature or planeswalker. If it would die this turn, exile it instead.
You know what card was good? Lava Coil, and this is just better than Lava Coil. This is a 4.
Yep. Don't need to say anything more than that.
Great. All you.
Over the top. 5 red for a sorcery. So 7 mana. Each player reveals a number of cards from the top of their library, equal to the number of non-land permanents they control. Puts all permanent cards they revealed this way onto the battlefield, and puts the rest into their graveyard. Yeah, this is like the crazy red rare of the set. Chaos rare.
Yeah. Each player reveals a number of cards from the top of their library equal to the number of non-land permanents they control. So you really need to be ahead, and it's also a bajillion mana, and I'm not really messing with these sorts of crazy cards. Unless it's just like crazy busted and I don't see it. It's like normal red shenanigans, right?
Yeah, I mean, I guess like some sort of red-blue tokens with the uncommon we in gold. Like, where maybe you just have a whole bunch more permanents than they do.
Yeah.
But, it's just... you could still basically whiff, or whiff relative to what they get. And for 7 mana, I don't want it to be left up to chance like that.
Ooh. Okay, here's a question. Now, if my opponent is playing soldier token, like white, blue soldier tokens, and they have like a bajillion 1/1s, and I wait as long as I possibly can, and then I cast this card, and I mill them out, do I still get a cookie? I think the answer is yes.
If you mill somebody out in red, you get 2 cookies.
Fantastic. Okay. We found our achievement. There's a rule. Anytime I mill someone out in limited on my stream, I get a crumble cookie. And this allows me to do that. So we're going to make that happen. I hope you look forward to our drafts. They're going to be a shit show. I'll let you take one more.
Pendragon Strongbull. 2 in a red for a 2/3 Minotaur. Pay 1, sacrifice an artifact. Pendragon Strongbull gets +1/+1 until end of turn, and deals 1 damage to each opponent.
I like this card. You can do, it's 2 things, right? You can have use for those things, your artifacts. Threat of activation is real here, so you're not going to have to do it every turn. You can just attack, be aggressive. They can't block because then their 3/3, 2/2s, whatever get eaten. Or even their 2/3s can't block because you just sacrificed your extra Power Stone. And then they don't block, and then you get to keep your Power Stone, you do 2 damage, and you do the thing. And at the end, you've gotten them down low enough where you can just sack all your artifacts and kill them. And that feels nice. This is a great curve filler for the aggressive red decks.
Yeah, and it's kind of a hilarious concept of the card and the art. It's like a circus strongman, but it's a strong bull.
Yes, and he's got the humans inside.
Yes.
His child lifting act was second only to his cauldron punting routine. Okay. Rating wise, I think this is kind of exactly what I want to be doing in red. It's like a 2/5, but I feel like in that aggressive curving out deck, it'll play like a 3.
Yeah, I'm actually leaning up to the 3 on this. I think in most sets, my response to this card would be like, well, let's see how many artifacts you end up with. That's not going to be a problem here.
Certainly not, especially with all those little Power Stones. Oh, what if you go lizard into this, and then you sack the Power Stone to this, and then the lizard does, then yay.
Then yay.
You did the thing. All right. We have Pyric Blast, a 4-mana instant that says, as an additional cost to cast the spell, sacrifice a creature. When it deals when it deals damage equal to the sacrificed creature's power to any target, draw a card. So it's a very expensive fling that replaces itself.
Yes.
At instant speed. I'm okay with this. I mean, I like it in response to removal a lot.
It's great in response to removal. It's pricey, but it's good with Unearth.
Ooh, yeah, you're right. It is good with Unearth. There is a lot to like here. Yeah, I think this card is fine. It's a little pricey, like you said, but it's instant speed. So I'm happy to give this like a 3, and I'm playing only 1 kind of deal. Like it's removal, but you don't want a lot of them. So it's like a 3,
Agreed.
but play them scarcely.
Yeah, the first one is a 3. The second one is like a 1.5.
Yeah, exactly. I like that. Raise to the ground, 3 mana for a sorcery. This spell can't be countered. Destroy target artifact. If its mana value was 1 or less, draw a card. So you can pew their Power Stones and draw cards. And you can destroy giant prototype cards. It's probably a sideboard card, but there's enough artifacts in here towards a 23rd playable card if you need it.
Yeah, I think I'm willing to play this card. Not excited like I was if I like to actually play Disenchant, but I think this is a fine playable just because of that second part with being able to hit a Power Stone and draw a card. Because most decks, it feels like I was going to end up with some number of incidental Power Stones in them.
Yeah, so for me, it's like a 1.5. I'm playing it if I have the space or the room and I don't really need anything else. I'm happy to pick these up for the sideboard. One of the bad things about cards, like a lot of times you're running this and you're just like, okay, well, the worst case scenario is I'm going to hit a Power Stone. I'm basically guaranteed to do this. And this has like a built-in failsafe for that. to where you aren't punished. You're basically getting to hurt them a little bit in some way and cycle this card for a sort of expensive cycle cost. So I like that, but I'm still not necessarily wanting to sideboard or keep this in main deck all the time. So definitely a playable card if you have the room or are short on playables, but I'd rather keep it in the sideboard.
Yeah, I'm right on the edge of playability on this, so it probably does end up with the way limited sets tend to give you enough playables nowadays. This probably ends up in the sideboard.
Yeah, there's so like it used to be half chaff, but now it's like all like it's hard to find ones sometimes.
Agreed, and it's usually just crazy rares that are ones.
All right, we've got 2 mana for a 3/1 with reach, and it's a relevant creature type. This is a little bit better than most 3/1s we see for 2 mana. This has got some solid upside.
Is this our first candidate for Sneaky Reach?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, it's a little less sneaky because it's like the text is so obvious. A lot of times it's sort of hidden in the text a little bit.
Because it doesn't do anything else, yeah.
Yeah. So...
yeah, there's probably a better one in green.
The other thing is, like, Sneaky Reach is usually good when you just get to eat their shit, whereas this is, like, trading. So you'll never know if they Sneaky Reached you or if they were just, like, willing to trade.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Rating-wise, I think it's like a 2/5.
Yeah, I think that's right. It's close to being only a 2, but I think it's probably a 2/5.
Yeah, like the vanilla 3/2s for 2, we typically give a 2 sort of begrudgingly. But this has 2 key things that really give it a nice little boost. Neither one is necessarily worth a ton because, like, reach, it'll trade, so it's not really, like, stopping anything, as it were. But also the human soldier is quite relevant in the format, so I'm pretty happy to give it a nice little upgrade for those two aspects of the card. I'll let you do this one.
Sardian Cliff Stomper, a 1 and a red for an 0/4 Minotaur Barbarian. As long as it's your turn, and you control 4 or more mountains, Sardian Cliff Stomper gets +X/+0, where X is the number of mountains you control.
Wow, so this is actually good in any, like, 2-color deck, but if you're in a mono-red deck, it feels really good.
Yeah, it's a 0/4 until you get that 4th mountain, but then it's at least a 4/4 on your turn every time.
Yeah. I want to be in heavy red, or I'll be a little sad, but I mean, it's kind of fine as filler if you need it. If you need 2-drops, because a lot of times when you need 2-drops, you're worried about being run over in that early, those early initial turns, and this is going to stop that, and then it turns into a threat.
Yeah, this feels like more of a fit for, like, red-blue, red-black than, like, your Boros aggro-y type of deck, but it'll play in all of them. Those decks just usually have enough 2s that can swing sooner than this.
Yeah, I like that. Or you might just be in mono red aggro, and you can just go ham with this. Rating-wise, it's a weird card to rate, actually. Probably like a 2?
I think I've got it like a 2/5. Because an 0/4 is going to be fine in some decks, even that aren't mono, for a while, until you can get to that 4th mountain. And then if you're in the decks that are heavy red, it's going to be great.
Yeah, I agree with that. Scrapwork Mutt. We've got a 2-mana dog. That's a dog? Okay.
It's an artifact. It's an artifact dog.
I don't really see it super well, but sure. Yeah. When Scrapwork Mutt enters the battlefield, you may discard a card. If you do, draw. It's a 2-mana 2/1, and it has Unearth. And Unearth is cheap, which is great with sacrifice and allows you to do cool things like fling it at somebody. Sure. And it lets you loot or rummage a little bit. I'm okay with that. Cheap to cast. It's probably a 2/5 with the Unearth synergies I could find, even if they're just like small incidental stuff.
Yeah, I like this as a 2/5.
Okay, cool. Sibling Rivalry, a 4-mana sorcery that says gain control of target creature until end of turn. Tap it, it gains haste. Create a tapped Power Stone. Sure. So again, with some sack outlets, this could be very good. We are all sort of still traumatized from the D&D set when sack was the deck to play, which was really, really freaking tilting, but that's not usually the case. So these typically are borderline playable. Most decks are not going to want them. Some very aggressive decks, you can use it as like a removal to finish the job, right? This is your top end where you steal their thing and deal the killing blow. I think it's like borderline playable. What do you think, Yanks?
Yeah, we've seen a decent number of sacrifice outlets for like 1 or 2 mana, more so than usual. Now some of them are only artifacts, but this can get artifacts. So I think it's probably a little better than it is in most sets, but nowhere near what it was in D&D.
Yeah. So it's like a 1.5 in most decks.
Yeah, I think that's probably a 2 in this format, because you do also get the Power Stone.
Okay, fair enough. That makes sense. Trying to decide if I think if I'm willing to play it just for the Power Stone, but I don't think I am still, so I'm sticking with 1.5.
Okay.
Skitter Beam Battalion, 9 mana or 5 mana. It is either a 4/4 or a 2/2, but either way, it has Trample and Haste. And when it enters the battlefield, if it was cast, create 2 tokens that are copies of it. Oh, that's cool. So for 5 mana, you get 3 2/2s with Trample and Haste. That's kind of neat.
Yep, and for 9 mana, you get 3 4/4s. If you cast it was a good clause, because bringing back artifacts from the graveyard as the full value here would be pretty rough.
Yeah, I agree with that. So rating wise, they're both good. This is like a 4.
Yeah, I think it's a 4.
If you have Power Stones and you can reliably get to 9, I think 3 4/4s with Trample and Haste is quite powerful, but I'm kind of leaning towards you're going to cast this for 5 most of the time, and 3 2/2s is a lot less difficult to deal with. So
Yeah, like you hear 6 power, 6 toughness for 5 mana. That's Trample and Haste. Okay, that's great, but when they're in 2/2s, they're just going to get eaten that late in the game. So, yeah, I think I'm with you. I think to get this to be as high of a rating, to get this to meet that high rating, you probably want to be reliably casting it for 9.
I agree with that. So what was your rating?
I think I still give it a 4. It's still value, top deck, late on an empty board or something like that. It's going to be great, even if you can only play it for 5.
Yeah, I'm on board. I think the 4 is like my middle split. So it's like 3/5 if you're casting it for the 2s, and I think it's like a 4/5 if you're casting it. Yeah. So realistically, it's never a 4. It's just going to average there. Tomical Scrapsmith?
Yeah.
We have a 3 mana 2/1 Human Artificer. When it enters the battlefield, mill 3 cards. You may put an artifact card from among them into your hand. If you don't, put a +1/+1 counter. So this is the same thing we've seen in the cycle here. How likely are you to get the card? If you don't get the card, are you happy to pay 3 mana for a 2/3 that milled you? With scrap heap stuff, maybe. Synergistic card. The average deck is not going to be happy with this, but in fact, this one's going to be less happy than the other rest of the cycles because they hit things like creatures or lands. This is very much does need to have artifacts to be at all relevant. So more synergistic than the other ones.
More synergistic, but I think I'm a little happier with the body at the end than I am with some of the other ones for the cost, like at a 3/2 for 3. It's not exciting, don't get me wrong, but it's certainly on rate.
Yeah, definitely true. What do you think in rating wise?
I think it's a 2.
Okay, I can be very much on board with a 2 as well. Tyrant of Kier Ridge. 6 mana for a 4/5 flying dragon that says, when it enters the battlefield, deal 4 damage to any target. I'm in. It's playable. Sounds great. 1 mana, it gets +1/+0 until end of turn. So it's got a little fire breathing. And what was the lightning dragon that did the same thing where it came into play and just like blew something up? Oh man, that gets me all gives me all the warm and tingly feelings. I'm into it.
Yeah, they've had a number of something of Care Ridge's cards. You had really old card Rock ROC of Care Ridges from Alpha Beta that was just a kind of a bird with no ETB, and then you had Scourge of Care Ridges from Future Sight, which dealt 6 damage to everything with flying. And this is just kind of in the middle.
Yeah, I'm playing this. I think this card is great. If it comes into play, it's going to blow something up. Even if it's small, I'm in. It's a little pricey. 6 is high, but like I'm happy to have a 6 drop in my deck. So I want this to be a 4/5.
Yep, I think it's a 4/5. Yeah, if this cost 5 mana, maybe it would be a 5.
All right. We have Unleash Shell, 5 mana for an instant, deals 5 damage to target creature or planeswalker, and deals 2 damage to that permanent's controller. At instant speed, a lot of times this is a sorcery. So, fine?
Yep, deal 5 for 5. We're seeing all the time now. Much better as an instant, but it does cost double red, where a lot of times it's single red. But you also get an extra shock to the face.
I like it. This is like it's at instant speed. I'm tempted to almost still give this a 4.
I think it's a little lower than that. I think it's like a 3/5, but it's still very good.
I agree. Normally I give it a 3/5 when it's like sorcery speed, but I'm very happy with instants. Do I bump it? Yes, I shall bump it. I will give it a 4.
Bump it.
Visions of Phyrexia, 4 mana for an enchantment. Says at the beginning of your upkeep, exile the top card of your library. You may play that card this turn. Fantastic. At the beginning of your end step, if you didn't play that card from exile this turn, create a Power Stone. Okay. It says play, doesn't say cast, so you can get your lands that you need. It's 4 mana. It's some really good card advantage. It is 4 mana, do nothing for a turn, but over time, it gives you some really good card advantage, gives you some mana, gives you some power rocks. I like it. What do you think, Gangs?
Yeah, these cards in red are always good because a lot of times you're up in red, you're on the board on turns 2 and 3, so taking turn 4 off isn't the worst. And then you just get to recoup an extra card a turn the rest of the way, and red often struggles with card advantage, so I really like that here.
Another cool thing that we can use this for is we've seen a lot of cards in red that are wanting you to sacrifice artifacts to do activated abilities. So from here on out, you're getting to replace any excess lands that you no longer need and turn them into Power Stones to fuel a lot of the synergies that your deck has in it. So I think that's very cool that you get Power Stones plus card advantage, and it's really kind of 2 for 1, getting you the value that your deck needs. So I think that's very neat. Rating wise, I am in the 3/5 range. If it was a little easier to get out or offered you some initial something when it came onto the battlefield, I'd be higher. But for now, I think it's a 3/5.
Yeah. Now you do get a Power Stone on that first turn, which is something. It's not a lot, but it is something.
That's true. Not as impactful as I would like for it to be a 4, though.
No, for sure. I've got it at 3/5 as well.
Whirling Strike. We have a 2 mana instant that says target creature gets +2/+0 and gains first strike and trample until end of turn. It's cool art. I usually play these cards at instant speed. I'm pretty happy with this.
Yeah, this is the kind of card I want to see if I'm playing like Monastery Swiftspear.
Absolutely. This is a 2/5?
Yeah, I think so. Getting 2 keywords is nice, and first strike usually lets you win the combat, and getting an extra maybe a point or 2 through with trample is nice.
Absolutely. All right, that's the end of our red cards. If you guys are watching this on the YouTube channel, thank you so much for joining us. Don't forget to leave us a comment down below and let me know what you think of red. Yanks, thanks for joining us.
Anytime, happy to help.
And if you guys missed those initial videos, they're already up. You guys can go check out white, blue, black, and the introduction. We'll see you guys in the next video for green. Have a good night. We did it! I'd like to end this video with a special thank you to those of you guys who have signed up for my Patreon. Without my wonderful patrons, none of this content would be possible. If you'd like to support this content and get your name up on the Wall of Fame, you can sign up for our Patreon by using the link down below in the description.
Another way you can support the channel is by using code MNG5 with Cool Stuff Inc., where you can find cool stuff in stock. They have everything you need for Magic, board games, and any of your other nerdy hobbies.